Oop, sorry guys, sorry. All right, so we got some responses coming in. So Josie put name of the, oh, now my chat is really moving. Sorry. Josie put name of the mom is mentioned in the feature, and it's a lot more emotional. Very good. So yeah, typically in feature leads, they don't have to be that emotional, but there's more of an emotional value to it, and there's more emotional cues used in a feature compared to a traditional news article. And then Kevin said hard news is factual or is based upon facts. Feature has more of a narrative. Excellent. Brian put feature news is generally more descriptive to set the scene and tell a story, while hard news just lists the most important information first without additional information. Yep. Alex put the feature lead was more than one sentence compared to the hard news. Excellent. Adam put the feature content is more emotional. Excellent. And creates a narrative of sorts, coloring the facts. I like that phrase, coloring the facts. Very good. It taps into, again, the 5 senses that I was talking about last class. Alana put the feature news adds much more description. Hard news is just factual. Great. Yep. Katie put feature news more intentionally evokes emotion. And then let's see, the feature definitely has a more realistic setting. You can picture what is going on. Yep. And then yes, the hard news gets to the point versus feature news. Excellent. So it seems like you guys are definitely getting this. So also in the textbook, I talked about the two, well, there are more than 2 types of feature leads, just to be quite frank with you. But these 2 that I mentioned in the textbook are probably the most commonly used types of feature leads. And those are anecdotal versus descriptive leads. Now, anecdotal leads are what they kind of sound like. So this is when you begin your feature with some type of like minor narrative or a story, a passage of some sort that helps to connect, the reader to the larger story at play. And then also make sure with your anecdotal lead, it's very specific. And what I mean by that is we're talking about a specific instance, right? That's relevant to the larger story. It's not really vague. It's not, abstract. Again, it's a specific anecdote or narrative that's relevant to the larger story. And then with your descriptive lead, it is a bit more vague than what you might have or see in your anecdotal lead. So we're using, and again, I hate to use like the actual word in the definition, but we're using more descriptive language. So we're setting the scene, we're tapping into the 5 senses, we're helping the reader to visualize what's going on, but it's not necessarily about a specific situation. So one example of that is you could maybe start your feature off by describing, like physically describing the person that you're writing about or the business that you're writing about. It's not about a specific example or a specific situation like you might see in an anecdotal lead. And then another thing I want to clarify, because sometimes I get this question from students, can anecdotal leads use descriptive language? Absolutely. But I think one of the key defining factors in terms of the difference between anecdotal and descriptive is that anecdotal is about a specific example, whereas descriptive leads are more vague in nature. And so on the next few slides, I have, actually here I just described the differences between descriptive versus anecdotal lead. I pretty much just summarized it. I'm not going to go over that if that's okay, because I don't want to sound really repetitive. And these lecture slides are already available to you guys, just in case you forgot. All right, so read this example summary, or this example lead, feature lead, and tell me in the chat whether or not you think it's an example of a descriptive lead or an anecdotal lead. All right, so we got some responses coming in, anecdotal. We'll wait maybe a few more seconds to see if anyone else wants to take a, yep. I know, the neighbors are being loud. Okay, I'm trying to teach. Sorry, that's my dog. Diamond, do you want to say hi again? Okay, you just want to fuss with the neighbors. Okay. All right. Hey. Okay. Come here. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I want her to say hi to you guys, but she's just being ornery. Anyways, so yes, you guys are right. Anecdotal leads, very good. Or this is an anecdotal lead, and that's because again, it's talking about a specific situation where again, this character, not this character, but this person, Janet, you know, is discussing this specific situation. Excellent. Alpha. I have to send that tweet to everyone in the class, Alpha. I don't think they know what I'm talking about or what you're talking about. It's hilarious. All right, let's see here. What about this next one? Aggressively Southern child. So go ahead and read this lead to yourself, and then in the chat, indicate which lead you think it might be, whether it's a descriptive or anecdotal lead. All right, so we got some responses coming in. So we have just, we have descriptive. Okay, most of you guys are putting descriptive down. Yes, you are absolutely correct. And the reason why it's descriptive, I'm sure you guys can kind of figure this out, but for those who are like, well, I thought it might have been anecdotal, it's not about a specific instance in Michael Ray's life. So it's talking about on any given day, right? This person can be found doing X, Y, and Z, not a specific instance or again, a specific example. And also it helps to kind of like set the scene. You can visualize this person, you know, doing their work. So that's another reason why it's more of an example of descriptive versus anecdotal. So I have a question from Katie. Does it have anything to do with because it talks more present tense, or no? I wouldn't look at the tense, Katie. It's just more so the actual nature of the passage. So this is more vague in nature compared to your anecdotal lead. So anecdotal is about a specific example, whereas this one is just, you know, broad, or again, setting the scene. I feel like I keep using the same language. I'm trying to think of other maybe examples to help you kind of notice the differences between the two. But let me think about that. All right, so in terms of just kind of concluding my entire lecture over features, so make sure that you remember that with features, they tend to be longer, right? We're using a lot more descriptive language than what you might find in a traditional news story. You also want to make sure that you're using more direct quotes. However, make sure that you're very strategic in terms of the type of quotes that you're choosing, because that's going to have more of an impact as opposed to just, you know, including everything, for instance, that person told you in your feature, you know, interview. So only choose the best quotes. And then also make sure, very similar to your traditional news story, you're not going to indent paragraphs. So this is more of a technical aspect of feature stories. And I know here I put that your feature paragraph should only be or no more than 3 sentences. But again, it can be about 4 to 5 sentences or so. Again, different from your traditional news story. And then as you guys know, make sure when you go to actually write your feature article, which that's not coming up just yet, I'll discuss that next week. But when you do, the headline should be the last thing that you write, usually speaking, and then also include your contact list. So again, very basic information. Alrighty, so that concludes lecture. I want to go ahead and before I leave you guys be, talk about your tight deadline assignment. So let me share my screen again. Yeah, yeah, today's class alpha is kind of quick. Last class was a little bit longer. Let's see here. So if you guys want to follow along with me, if you have your laptops out, if you don't, that's fine. I'm just going to pull it up here. Let's see. So if you click on next week's module, you'll see tight deadline assignment number 3 up here. And I've modified this assignment greatly in light of, you know, the situation that we find ourselves in. So this is actually more, this is actually a shorter assignment than again, what I originally planned, but that is totally okay. All right, let me know if you can't see this assignment description. So what I'd like you guys to do for this assignment that's due next Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. is to essentially practice writing feature leads. What you're going to do for each story that you see here that's actually been published, you are going to write a feature lead. Now, all the stories that you see are actually traditional news stories. So in other words, they're written in a way that you would find in a traditional news story. They don't have feature leads. So you're going to make up a feature lead for each story. You can make up names, you know, if you want to like make up a hypothetical situation or a situation that's not necessarily real to that specific, you know, journal or that specific article. But you can't make up facts. And what I mean by that is it still has to be about the topic at hand. But if you wanted to further humanize this story that you see here, you can make up a person's name or make up a situation that's relevant to the specific article. Now, I'm not picky in terms of like whether I'm looking for all of your leads to be descriptive or all of them to be anecdotal or maybe one anecdotal or one descriptive and then the next one anecdotal. I really don't care in the sense of like you can choose whatever type you want to use in terms of descriptive versus anecdotal. Just make sure it is in fact a feature lead. And here I'm just giving you guys some tips. So make sure your feature lead is actually a minimum of 3 sentences. I know I said 4 to 6. But, you know, if you're really struggling, I'll accept, you know, a minimum of 3 sentences. And then the second point, once more, I'm just helping you guys to, again, understand the difference between descriptive and anecdotal. If you are making up a hypothetical situation for your reader, try not to use second person. And what I mean by that is sometimes I'll get this from students. Imagine you're an Ohio State student who's trying to juggle 2 jobs and extracurricular activities. You want to refrain from using second person like you, our, us, things of that sort, at least for this assignment. I'm not saying that you'll never find second person or second voice language being used in a feature, but for the purposes of this assignment, try not to do that, just third person. You obviously also wouldn't use first person as well. So no pronouns like I, me, my, things of that sort. And then again, since your feature leads are going to be a little longer in nature, you're not going to tell the reader the purpose of the story in the first sentence. What you're going to instead do is maybe again set the scene for about 3 to 4 sentences. And that last sentence in the paragraph, that's when you're going to create what we call the kicker, bring it home and tell the reader what the purpose of the story is or what is the purpose. So that's essentially it for next Tuesday's assignment. Once more, if you want me to take a look at what you have, just send me an email and we can set up a conference call or a phone call, whether you prefer just calling my office phone, which is redirected to my personal cell, or having a Zoom meeting, whatever you guys would like to do. But please make sure you reach out to me if you do want to take advantage of that before the assignment is due. All right, I'll pause here. Any questions over that? Great question, Sarah. So should you guys indicate if each is supposed to be anecdotal or descriptive? No. I've graded enough of these to know if it's descriptive or anecdotal. I would say, Sarah, and this goes for everyone else, if you can, maybe number one, use a completely different Word document. So some students will, some students will use the same Word document that's on the assignment description or that's used for the assignment description. When they submit their, entry, when they submit their submission. And that's kind of confusing for me when I'm going through and grading this. So again, start a completely different Word document and then label, each lead like Article 1, feature lead, something like that. You don't have to put the story name or anything like that. I've read each of the stories that I included here and I know what they're about. So good question. Any other questions? Oh, thank you, Alpha. Yeah, I'm trying to make it a little bit easier for you guys, because I know this isn't the only class that you're taking, and it just helps you guys out in terms of your mental health and just making the most out of this situation. So I appreciate that positive feedback. I really do. All right. Well, if there are no further questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the class here. I actually remember to record it this time, so you will receive it later on. And so, yeah, that concludes today's class, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Take care and get outside, walk, do some yoga, something to activate those good endorphins. See y'all later.